We are now well into December because I got a little bit distracted by my Hungerstone posting. So it's time for me to begin my annual campaign to convince all of you that spooky season doesn't end with Halloween, it begins with it. And the true deep heart of seasonal horror actually belongs to the winter solstice and Christmas. This isn't some kind of criticism of Halloween or an attempt to downplay how cool Halloween is, because I absolutely love Halloween. It's just that every year I see people mourning the death of spooky season the day after Halloween is over, and complaining about how now we're entering into endless Christmas jingle time. And there's this conviction in the modern era that's come about as a direct result of a lot of modern comforts and conveniences that winter is now cuddly, winter is tame, winter is snowmen and hot chocolate. But traditionally, winter was the most frightening time of year, especially the further away you lived from the equator. Because for our ancestors who didn't have things like global food shipping, oranges coming from around the world no matter the season, winter was a time of deprivation, it was a time of fear. The food that you had, none of it was going to be fresh except for, a handful of things you might be able to get during the winter depending on where you were. And there was always a risk that the food that you'd carefully prepared for the winter might be suffer from spoilage, and then what would you do? You'd starve. There was the fact that the cold itself was a killer, and even if you could keep your house warm enough that you didn't end up dying of hypothermia, the fact that cold weather does weaken the immune system meant that elders and children were more likely to die during this season. And the darkness itself, there are a lot of creatures with much better night vision than us who, when hungry enough, will absolutely prey on humans. So you look out of your windows, you can't see very far, you don't know what's looking back at you. And all of this meant that because one of the things humans do to process our own fears and um, our own abstract sufferings is create monsters, create stories that process this fear, this trauma. Winter is absolutely populated with folkloric monsters and traditions relating to them. And a lot of these have been forgotten now, which is really sad because they're really fun. Have you ever listened to or maybe watched the Muppet version of A Christmas Carol and wondered where he got the idea to bring ghosts into Christmas? Because, at this point, the idea of bringing ghosts into Christmas, you either connect it directly to A Christmas Carol or you think that's quite a strange thing to do, but it actually wasn't, because even for the Victorians, actually, especially for the Victorians, because they loved this, Christmas was a time of ghost stories. Telling ghost stories on Christmas Eve or even Christmas Day in a family party was a traditional activity that you'd do to spend the time together. Because winter itself was frightening. And telling ghost stories is a way to cathart, it's a way to move through the fear, it's a way to take hold of that fear, contain it, and control it. And then, of course, there's a lot of mystical things and various monsters that are out there. Some of them are connected to Christmas and some of them are connected to the winter solstice, and some of them may even predate Christianity in Europe or have become syncretized with Christian traditions. We're not really clear on that, but they've all got terrifying powers and a role that they play in the divine and even human order of things. And the winter season and December is when they come out and assert it. And if this is something that you're listening to and you've, dealt with me rambling and you're thinking, that sounds really interesting, actually, I'd like to know more, I'm going to start by recommending you this book, The Dead of Winter by Sarah Glegg, because she put together many of these old spooky Christmas traditions that she could find, and it's really informative and really interesting. So that's your place to start, and I am probably going to be back with more rambling about sinister Christmas and winter solstice figures later. We're getting very close to the time of Santa's pet cannibal scarecrow. And if that phrase intrigues you, you're going to want to check back in later, because I will be talking about him.